Hey, hey guys, welcome to another Doug and Kindle chit chat. We're going to have to come up with a fun name for this eventually.
No.
But this is what we're doing, hanging out here. And we are going to talk about eat this, not that, for weight loss. And then we're both going to share our own experiences of how it impacted our health, because eating healthy should not be void of going on a diet. And that's typically what most people have experienced. And so I'm excited to share this with you. I know Doug's excited because we've had some really awesome, got to shout about it, talk about it, results that came from our weight loss journey. And then like implementing a lifestyle that has been, in my opinion, like absolutely wonderful. I love eating this way. And so we really just wanted to break down exactly like what to eat, what not to eat, and how do we actually implement it in our own lives.
Absolutely. And, I want to emphasize it being a lifestyle, Kindle, because so many times, I don't know about you, but in my journey, we talked about it last time a little bit. It's been years of just going up and down and up and down and gaining weight and losing weight and gaining weight. Finally, it all caught up with me, all that damage on my body, plus a family history of heart disease, that I ended up with heart disease. So I didn't have a choice anymore. I had to get some stents actually put. I actually have little wire meshes inside of me now. I hate that. It freaks me out. And my cholesterol was super high and my blood pressure was super high. But so they sent me to cardiac rehab. And thank God that we have here in Jacksonville, Florida, a place called Synergy Lifestyle Center that is basically the Dean Ornish program, which is a whole food, plant-based. That's the diet part of it, but there's also meditation, there's also de-stressing, there's exercise, the whole deal. But I kind of like got reprogrammed on everything. So I'm not doing any more of those yo-yo diets, but I'll tell you what, it's like you said, it's a lifestyle. So now living this lifestyle of eating healthy, which I couldn't really do before, I don't know why. I think it's because I did those stupid extreme diets where you're like, I don't know. I don't want to make fun of people's diets, but I've been there. I've done them all, guys. But when you're eating like, just like steaks and cheese and things like that, thinking like, what's the goal? My goal back then was to lose weight. My goal now is to be healthy. So I was losing weight at times before, but it was still driving my heart disease worse and worse and worse, clogging the arteries. So I'm excited that we have a sustainable way, and we agree on this stuff, Kindle, and we're going to talk through some of what we actually do this week.
Yeah, I know. I'm so pumped. And I think that's just really encouraging. I think a lot of times, I think what we both want to just emphasize too is don't let it get to the point where you have to have a health crisis to pick a lifestyle. And honestly, what we're about to show you is probably going to make you really happy. It's going to be, when I first learned about this, I was like, are you kidding me? I'm allowed to eat potatoes and rice, and I mean, the list is incredible. So actually, Doug, do you mind popping up there? There is a really simple picture, and this is real simple, y'all. And there's more to this, but I just wanted to keep things very basic. And I'm going to introduce you guys to Dr. McDougall. And I absolutely could just like kiss this man. He's already married, but, and I'm married, but hey,
Maybe you'll give him a hug someday.
I'll give him a hug for sure. Cause this way of eating just is so delicious and satisfying. And it's actually what we are meant to eat. So on this plate, this is an example of exactly what I eat for the most part, which is a 50-50 plate. And it's filled with really the four food groups is legumes, starchy vegetables like potatoes, winter squash, yams, and then also fruits, and then non-starchy vegetables. And then that's like the core foundation. And from there, it can go out with like some other options like grains, sourdough. I know that's your area, Doug. What is your take on this plate? What is any thoughts on that or add-ins?
Well, I would say, and again, the rehab I went to was by Dr. Ornish, but I do recommend for people that are searching and saying, let me try something like this, or maybe you want to lose weight and you haven't had success, this is going to work for you. And if you have high blood pressure or high cholesterol, or you already have heart disease or diabetes, same deal. It will reverse it. But I think it's easier to go with the McDougall. So there's a book called The Starch Solution by, is it John McDougall?
Yeah, it's John
John
McDougall.
McDougall. And it is just, it's so good. Well, when I look at this plate, this is similar to how I eat, although I will say I don't always get a full balance. And that's my struggle, is just to make sure I include some fruits and some, leafy greens, but then also your starchy vegetables, to get it all in there. That's like the perfect eating day, but it's good to have a goal to go toward. The one thing that I think is interesting on this place, maybe we'll talk about this a little bit, and that is the intact whole grains, because I'm pretty sure in the starch solution, so McDougall allows white potatoes, correct?
Correct. Yeah. Thank God.
Yeah, no, thank God, because white potatoes, that opens up a lot of options. So if you're trying to eat like low carb or something, and you're trying to avoid all that stuff, and it just, you don't get satisfied as much. I didn't, at least. And again, you end up having to fill up on this really high carb, really high protein, fatty stuff, so your body gets satisfied by certain things. One of them is starch, another one is fats. So you can't have both and lose weight. You're gonna have to choose one. And I just don't believe, I haven't met a lot of people that are really sustaining on that high fat diet, especially in a way that doesn't lead to other diseases and gout and all these other things that are related to that kind of a diet. But when it comes to the grains, I think you can have a little bit of white rice too, if that's going to kind of get you through. Isn't that true?
Oh yeah. Even I'll make sushi all the time for us, and I use white rice. Even for tonight for dinner, we just did curry with white rice, and it's been awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people don't realize too, and I know we're going to get into this, like what we really eat. A lot of people don't realize, like, oh man, if I'm eating this, or if I'm eating vegetarian or vegan, I can't go get sushi because it's all the fish and all this. But listen, I got my favorite sushi place. I go all the time, and there's great options. They'll make you like noodle. There's one thing we learned at my program. When you go to a place, Asian places are great because they always make things to order. So then you just say, I would like to have rice noodles. Don't use a lot of oil. Make it spicy. Put veggies and tofu, and it comes out. I don't know what they're doing, but it's awesome. It comes out great. Now, it's probably not as healthy as what I would make at home, but in a pinch, you're good to go. But the vegetarian sushi is great. The avocado rolls, the cucumber rolls, combining them all together, asparagus, you can put all kinds of great things in there.
Yeah. And I definitely would want to just even say too, what makes eating this way so fabulous is the high amount of volume. So if you look at all these foods, the plates, the portions, and the volume that you can fill up a plate is very satisfying to your stomach. And our stomachs have these stretch receptors in them, which I learned about, that just blew me away. No wonder so many of the people who are on these maybe really high fat diets are not feeling satisfied, because our stomachs are literally designed to stretch. And when they stretch appropriately, our brain is satisfied. And we go, thank goodness. Okay, good. I feel good again. I can rest. I'm happy. And these foods, though, like vegetables especially, and even a potato, the calorie density of a potato is maybe roughly like 100 calories. You eat 2 nice big baked potatoes, have a large platter of vegetables next to you, either like a big salad or broccoli steamed, or the list of vegetable options is endless. And then you eat that whole plate, maybe add like another thing of beans, or even add a little bit of avocado on there, and you still come out with like only 400 calories that you've eaten.
Yeah.
But your stomach is just so satisfied. And that, for me, even the thing that I learned too, that just really opened my eyes to this way of eating, is that this is not just like a diet. It's actually something that's been universally around the world, this has been going on for thousands and thousands of years, that the foundation of a civilization was born off of starches. So the Aztecs, the Mesa community, it's corn. The Egyptians is wheat. You go over to Asia, it's rice. And the northern, maybe like the United Kingdom, that area, Europe, potatoes. All around the world, there's areas that the foundational foods is plants. And you could probably speak more into this too with the China study.
Yeah, well, obviously, I mean, yeah, rice is a staple. So that's the funny thing too, is that that's another great book you guys can check out. It's called The China Study. And what they do is kind of a longitudinal study, maybe not longitudinal, but more of a survey of what people are eating in these countries or these regions, particularly in China, where they're living really, really long and they have really low instances of cancer and heart disease. It's almost non-existent. So there is a lot of, it's primarily a vegetarian diet. It's probably not the Chinese food you're getting when you go out to your local restaurant, because that's been Americanized. You know, I've been to Taiwan for an extended trip and I was shocked. The food was very different compared to what I was expecting. Well, there is a lot of rice, but there's also a lot of soy, you know, soybeans. And this is where people get freaked out about soy. I think we'll end up doing like a whole episode on soy. Definitely. But if it's not massively processed soy, like everything else, I mean, you can take potatoes and, I mean, potato chips are potatoes that are processed and they are fried in oil. I mean, it's not healthy anymore. So you can ruin soy. But soy, look at the research on soy. It is good. It does not grow boobs on men. It doesn't cause, breast cancer in women if you're having the right stuff. You know, so like, and they find in the China study that they were eating a lot of soy and a lot of rice and things like that. So, I mean, it's a great way to eat. I'll tell you what, it's just great. And it is. So some of the properties that we see in this, guys, is you look at that plate. Now notice, if you're having grains, starchy vegetables, beans, non-starchy vegetables like salads and stuff like that, broccolis, and then fruits and stuff, there's not a lot of fat. I mean, if you didn't do anything to any of that, there might be no fat at all. You know, the only place that Kindle has talked about that would have fat would actually be in an avocado so far. And, that gets into a whole area. We could probably also do a whole thing about avocados, because technically Ornish doesn't allow avocado on the reversal diet. It's because Ornish wants your fat content at only 10% of your calories per day. And an avocado is going to have high fat. And believe it or not, it's actually some saturated fat in an avocado. So when you're a heart patient, you want to have as little saturated fat as possible. In general, that rule is like, if it's a solid at room temperature, like, what is that? Like, not canola oil, but coconut oil. You know, a lot of times people are putting coconut oil in their coffee and their smoothies. That's probably okay if you're not a heart patient. But for me, I'm not supposed to do that. But there are certain things, you know, like I said, I'll default to McDougall recommending it to people, and I'll primarily do Ornish type of stuff. But there's so much crossover. It's kind of ridiculous. They're almost the same exact thing. There's just a few little differences where, one of them is in avocados. Others are in just some of the little particulars. Like white rice, Ornish would not recommend, but McDougall's okay with a little bit of white rice. But my dietitian at my rehab place said, listen, if white rice is a deal breaker for you, have some white rice. And I think we could say that about anything. Now, I'm not saying that means if chicken wings are a deal breaker, you're going to have chicken wings. But this really, really works.
It does. Really works. If you wouldn't mind, let's jump out of this, and I want to talk about what not to eat. This is the thing that will probably make most people fall out of their chair. Because when I first was reading the Starch Solution and was looking for ways to lose weight and also help my hormones, I was blown away when I learned that seed oils were actually unbelievably destructive to my health and to a lot of people's health. And so, and just overall, even looking at what that plate loaded up on there, it was missing. McDougall recommends missing out on meat and animal products, butter, and also oil. And if you compare, this was what really opened my eyes to this. I hope you guys can like, just maybe if you take one thing from today is oil with just like about, you know, a little tiny thing of oil that's maybe about 200 calories. That's all you're going to get is that little tiny amount of food. But if you were going to eat a, you know, 200 calories worth of lettuce, that's like 2 heads of lettuce. And oil is literally the most calorically dense food on the planet. It's liquid gold. So like if you need calories, yes, go eat it. But when it comes down to the overall necessity, it's a processed way of making, it's like the table sugar of fats is essentially what it is, because you're removing the fat, the oil from an olive per se, or from an avocado per se, and you're taking it from its whole food format and then putting it into a liquid source, you know, just like table sugar. And when I heard that, I was like, oh, this makes sense. And I've grown up my whole life, like you pour olive oil on everything you make, right, Doug? Like, I'm sure you grew up that way too.
Listen, you're making people mad right now. They're going to tune out. But we have to tell you the truth. That's what we're going to do on this. Yeah. And the bottom, listen, olive oil is not a health food. I literally thought it was a health food, basically. And before I learned the truth, when let's say I'm going to saute some vegetables, you do like 2 turns around the pan, maybe 3 with olive oil. You're basically frying things. And as you're, oh gosh, what do they call that? What is that oil we definitely shouldn't have? Hydrogenated. So I think when you're actually heating it up to a certain temperature, it's actually becoming toxic too, if you really heat it too hot.
Carcinogenic.
Pure fat, guys. It's just fat. Now, does it taste good? Yes, but so does pizza and chicken wings. Okay? And so don't fool yourself. It is not a health food, eating just straight up oil. Now, some people are going to say, though, Kindle, well, what am I supposed to do? I mean, how are you supposed to saute your onions and garlic?
I know, that's a great question. And I had my brain break for a second when I first had to rethink cooking. But then I realized, you know what? I can water saute. It's so simple.
Or vegetable broth.
That too. I mean, even just tonight, like I was able to do mushrooms and onions, and I put a little bit of soy sauce and some water in there, and you eventually will cook it down and it will brown up, and you pour some water in, and it really, whenever we started eating this way, I remember Luke, even because I cook, so he eats what I make. So eventually, you know, he caught on. He was like, wow, I feel so light after eating our meals. Like, I don't feel like I'm tired. I don't feel like I'm drained. I don't feel bogged down. I just feel like I could get up and go work out right now, or I feel like I could go for a walk, or my brain's not foggy.
Yeah. You know, I find too, a little quick tip, if you try to water saute or broth saute, you just have to lower your heat. So you get your heat lower and you take your time with it. And it's going to give you so much flavor. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. Now, one of the keys, and I guess we'll wrap up pretty soon here. If you don't mind, I want to give them a resource.
Yes.
I think you're not opposed to the Forks Over Knives information, right?
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
It's the same. It's basically the same thing, but I want to show them this. So Forks Over Knives, some people don't know about this, but it's in all our grocery stores. I don't know if it is in Georgia too, but there's a magazine called Forks Over Knives, but it's all based on this Netflix documentary called Forks Over Knives. I dare you to watch Forks Over Knives. It's awesome, but their website is awesome. So even way surpassing even McDougall and Ornish and all the doctors, Forks Over Knives is kind of like the the very visual, beautiful, and great resource that still follows these guidelines. Now, there might occasionally, I still check the recipes, but I'm noticing they're really good. So if you go to this website, guys, you can get a free guide right here that's like a plant-based beginner guide. And it is awesome. I mean, I'm currently doing the cooking course and learning how to be a plant-based chef.
Are you? You're going to have to teach us some classes.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome.
No doubt. But there's so many recipes. Let's see. Kindle, what do you like eating?
I love doing, you could put in what I had for dinner tonight, do curry.
Oh, curry. So we're going to search for a curry, and we're going to come up with all these awesome recipes. Vegetable tiki masala. I'm sold. I mean, it's amazing. Curried sweet potato soup, burgers. I mean, it's just amazing how many great things there are. Onion rings that are compliant to what we're talking about. Okay, and you can go so far as to download an app and do the whole deal. So it's amazing. I really want to encourage you guys to check it out, because I'm telling you, it's been life-changing. I finally, after all these years, have found something I can stick with. And it's not just because it scared me to get heart disease. It's because you don't feel hungry. And I'll tell you what, I used to do like the Atkins type of thing like 20 years ago. I lost my 30 or 40 pounds on that. And then I found it again, because even if you're eating filet mignon and like the finest cheeses in the world, how long can you really do that? Right. And I'll tell you what, you eventually start feeling gross and your breath stinks, you smell. It's terrible. Terrible. Just terrible.
And I even want to share one more thing in here too, is for anyone, this is for the women, for the ladies out there, PCOS is rampant. And that was something that I didn't realize that I had until I went in and I had a cyst rupture. And it was after the same time that I had my kidney infection. I went to the hospital and they're like, oh, did you know that this had happened? And that means that you have PCOS. They diagnosed it. And it was something that just like you said, Doug, where it's like when something traumatic happens and something really has to change in your life, when you have a health problem, that really woke me up. And I realized I'm only in my 20s and I'm already, experiencing some things that I do not want to have progress. So when I began eating this way and actually able to lose the weight, PCOS is a metabolic related disease is what I found out. And so it's related to your overall BMI. And when I lost the weight, all the symptoms, all the little things that I didn't realize were really going on in my body, it all went away. And thankfully, I was already doing a lot of other things to just help with the problems. And we'll even probably share more about those too. We talk about plant powders, talk about Juice Plus. It's just part of who we are.
Yeah.
And it's, I think too, it really helped already being in this mindset of like learning that plants are so beneficial that I knew this was going to work. I just knew it. It was like, once I found this, I was like, this just makes sense. Plants are good for us. And I needed to trust the process, because coming from a bodybuilding background, I was like, where's the meat? Where's the and we're going to definitely do a topic on that. Cause I'm how do you build muscle without meat? And I was so concerned, but I just tell you guys, ladies, it's so worth it. And the soy too. We were just having a talk today about how eating soy actually reduces menopausal symptoms by 95%. Eating a plant-based diet will reduce those symptoms. And I'm in for it. 95%. Are you kidding me? No problems. 5%. That's it. So we're going to continue.
My wife and I are in our mid-50s, and I always feel bad when I hear these stories about these women talking about menopause, or even worse, the men at the golf course talking about their wife and how they're freaking out and they're hotheads and they're like a different person. My wife hasn't had any of that, and she's been eating vegetarian for over 10 years now. So it's real. It's real. And for me, coming from a fat guy background, I was always worried that if I go on a diet that I'm going to be suffering, pure suffering. It's not. It's just not.
It's not.
Great. I love it. You can
Yeah.
eat so good, and we're going to help you guys get there. So hopefully this helps somebody. We're going to wrap up, and we'll be back next week on Monday. And hopefully we can keep giving you guys some good info that'll help you out. But please check it out. Remember, Dr. Ornish, Dr. McDougall, Forks Over Knives. Look into it and follow us on our social medias. And we will do whatever we can to help you. Feel free to reach out.
Sounds good. We'll see you guys next week.
All right.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.